Anyway, they don't actually really do anything. They get knocked down in less than like 30 seconds. But two Digi-Eggs do fly out of their bodies and go to Davis and Willis. It turns out they're golden Digi-Eggs, and they use them, and Davis turns Vmon into Magnamon, and Willis turns Terriermon into... I forgot its name already. So they start fighting, they blow up Cherubimon a bunch, but they realize it just keeps regenerating. Then they get eaten, and they find Kokomon inside, who tells them to shoot him. So they blow up Kokomon's inner spirit, and then...
What the fuck is going on?
Anyway, everybody's fine. Kokomon's dead. They all go to New York, I guess. And apparently Ty contacted the group off screen and said everybody's fine, so we don't get to hear anything from them. Willis is happy and he says goodbye to the group, never to be seen again. We then see that Kokomon didn't completely die. He came back as an egg, even though Wizardmon said that's not how it works if a Digimon dies in the real world. But it ends on a happy note, so the end. Let's get to final thoughts. This movie is so bafflingly weird. And it's kind of hard to compare the Japanese and English versions to one another because the English version is just such a stripped down version of the Japanese story. A lot of the character driven talking scenes with Willis are either cut or just completely rushed into a couple seconds. Like the example I can give is when Davis and Willis were talking on the side of the road. The movie devoted several minutes to their conversation before moving on to the next part of the story. In the English version, they devote, like I said, I think like 30 seconds to the conversation before it's, boom, we have to go now. But I feel like the English version cutting a lot of those scenes down made the movie more coherent. I guess it all depends whether or not you like Willis's character or are actually interested in him. But I couldn't stand a lot of those talking scenes because I just don't care about Willis. I don't find him interesting. He just comes off as very bland. In the English version, he comes off as kind of a dick. And I feel in many ways he's just unnecessary to this story. Like, when I was interested in this plot and in the story, it wasn't because of Willis. It was because, at least in the Japanese version, it was because of the fact that the heroes of adventure had been kidnapped and I wanted to see what was going to happen to them. I feel like that setup alone could have moved a story along just fine. Like if the plot of the movie was just, oh, an evil Digimon is kidnapping Digidestins for unknown purposes and it's up to the O2 kids to go save them, that to me would have been a fine story. But then you add in Willis, who at times just slows the story down to try to give his backstory, and it's just not that interesting to me, and I think it really hurts the flow. I'm trying to think about what Willis's character actually does for the story, and I can come up with two things. The first one is it gives sort of a history or relationship to Kokomon. And also give Kokomon some motivation, because Kokomon's main motivation is he wants to go back in time to when Willis was young. I'm kind of iffy as to why. Like, why can't he hang out with Willis now? Or is this just he's evil because he's a virus type now? I don't know. And the other reason I can think of why he's here is to try to help to move the story along and the characters along. Because without Willis, they would have never known to have gone to Colorado. But both those things, I think, could have been, like, completely bypassed, or at least rewritten to the point that Willis doesn't need to be there to, like, provide motivation for Kokomon or to get the kids to Colorado. I don't know, the idea I had for Kokomon's motivation is that he had a Digimon, or he was partnered with the Digidestin, and then that Digidestin died for some reason, either sickness or got hit by a car, or maybe he just disappeared. And Kokomon was left all alone, but after a while refused to accept the fact that his Digidestin had died, and instead started kidnapping all these other Digidestin in this sort of like virus raged madness, thinking that he could find his old Digidestin. And he starts regressing the age of his captives to the age when his original Digidestin died. And then just have like Genai call Kari and say, "Oh, Kari, I heard your brother got kidnapped. Well, I think I found the Digimon that did it. He's in Colorado. Go call Davis and the others and tell him to meet you there." There, no more Willis. And all those scenes where they're trying to develop his character in the movie get now to go to pre-existing characters who desperately need that development. Maybe make it Kari's story instead of Willis's story? Or maybe, I don't know. I'm just kind of like obsessed of trying to find ways to write Willis out of the movie, because when I want to go see a Digimon movie, I want to go see a movie that has our heroes in it and has them as the focus, not Willis. I mean, this movie is so focused on Willis that, like I said, I forgot Kari and TK were in this movie. They're barely in it. Cody and Yoli do basically nothing. This problem is kind of fixed in the dub, if you can call it fixed. It's just that because the movie is so much shorter and they cut out a lot of scenes to just have Davis and Willis, like, alone or together, it makes the fact that they're more absent in the movie less prominent. Here's my example. In this scene, Cody and Yoli drive off, leaving Willis and Davis alone. As of this moment, they are temporarily absent from the movie. Now, in the English version, they are absent from the movie before meeting up with Willis and Davis again for about less than 5 minutes. While in the Japanese version, they are absent from the movie for almost 10 minutes. You see, their absence it's less prominent. Okay, did that make sense? Okay, I hope it did, because we're moving on. Anyway, it was kind of hard to compare the two versions to each other, because they are just so different. Scenes are flipped around or placed in different orders, just large chunks of time are just cut. Willis in the dub seems a lot more resistant to help than he does in the Japanese version. And like I said, Tai and the others getting kidnapped by Kokomon is just dropped from the dub. But I tried my best to compare them. Now, when it comes to which version I would prefer, without hesitation, I would say the original Japanese. Although there's a lot more stretches of just boring dialogue and a lot of misplaced music that can ruin scenes, that ending fight scene in the Japanese version is just so trippy. It blew me away. The visuals, the music, it was amazing. And that stuff, like I mentioned with the long talking scenes and the misplaced music, it was bad, but it kind of added to that surreal atmosphere it seemed to be building. This movie seems to feel like it's trying to be something bigger than what it is. And I can't tell if it's a good movie or a bad one, because like that fight scene at the end, I just love it so much. But still, there's like all those flaws, and like Cody, Yoli, Kari, and TK don't get to do much. And the whole thing with Tai and the others getting kidnapped just seems so dropped. Like, they almost seems like they forgot it, and then they had to write in an ending real quick at the end, where it's like, oh, I talked to them on the phone. They're fine. I don't know. This movie is just so confusing. And that whole thing in the dub of trying to link it to Diaboromon is just crappy. And it's just... You know what? We're going to finish off here, because next time we're going to talk about the movie that actually does relate to Diaboromon. And that is The Revenge of Diaboromon. So, see you next time. Good night.
This is my